Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan, Motor City Madmouth. Pleased to be joined by Candy Ebling, JB Ellis, and George Eichhorn, our regular Wednesday night crew. Before I go into more detail with them, give you an overview of what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about former NBA coach George Karl, the New York Yankees. What is wrong with that? My goodness. U.S. soccer team dismissing Greg Berhalter. And we also have a little Detroit Red Wings and Boston Bruins thing. And we throw a little bit of a tidbit about Mackinac Island. Why would I come up with a Mackinac Island tidbit? Let me tell you, it may not be as bizarre as cornhole and hot dog eating contest, but if you've never been to Mackinac Island, put it on your bucket list. It's definitely a way to go. But I'll make sure that you exactly know what you have to do when you get there by the end of the show. With that said, Candy, welcome back.
Thanks, Scott. It's great to be here.
And George Eichhorn.
Oh, always a pleasure to be here. The Sports Exchange. We know how this program goes decades ago when we started it, Scott.
Yeah, you and I did, didn't we, George? We started, and a lot of stations, and J.B. Ellis and Candy Ebling are now part of the tradition, right, Mr. Ellis?
Yep, what a great tradition to be part of.
Yeah, don't worry. We got plenty of big plans for you, Ellis. So stick around, my brother from another mother. You are connected with a legendary brand here. Even though the louder I get, the worse it gets. So, folks.
So, Scott, just before you go on, I mean, we talked a lot about the hot dog eating contest.
Yeah.
You know, a quick update to it. There was actually a cheating scandal in this year's contest.
Was it really?
Nick Weary supposedly took a plate, and they count the hot dogs by how many empty plates. He took one of his competitors' plates and put it on his pile, and he got caught cheating.
Really?
I think he ended up finishing third because of that. And he's actually, I'm looking it up now, the husband of, hang on one second. He's the husband of women's division champion Miki Sudo. So
really?
That's interesting. I want to know if that kind of clouds what she did, because she got over 50, I think, for the first time. So, you know, a lot of hot dog stuff going on last week, but it's still happening.
Let me tell you what. Hey, Puff and Penguin, glad to have you on the Motor City Smacker. Yeah, not as much caffeine tonight, brother. I'm relying on Sprite. But I got to tell you one thing, though, JB, before we get into the topics tonight. You know, when you and I did some boxing a while back, and my voice was booming from one end of the restaurant to the other, I was talking to my buddy Chip Tarkenton, and he was laughing so hard because of the fact that, to me, you know, I realize your voice can go from one end of the restaurant to the other. And AJ Gasser was a manager at the time, and he was laughing all the way from one end of the kitchen to the other. So I'm glad you did a little homework on that. So what am I supposed to do, Joe? Am I supposed to call the hot dog eating contest today's version of the Tour de France or the Tour de Fraud? Because it's almost like that's what you're doing to me, right, Ellis? Really? Seriously?
I don't know. All I'm saying is, you know, it was a big topic, so we gotta get all the news out there.
Hey, no problem. I'm all for all the news that we have there. I'm just glad you gave us a good Sports Exchange update presented by Sideline Sports. All right. With that said, we're going to go to topic number one. Oh, I was been chomping at the bit to get this one in, and we're leading off with it. So according to Justin Seeley, George Carlton strays at the Lakers. Get this. He said the Lakers will be more successful going forward when they acknowledge the only championship they won since Phil Jackson left doesn't count. George Karl via Twitter. Ooh, that's a pretty good shot, Candy Emily. What do you think? It doesn't count. Answer us, maybe?
Why? Why wouldn't it count?
Well, I don't know. You tell me. That's what George says.
I mean, if you win a championship, you win a championship. Unless they found a reason why. I mean, it's not like it's one game or a hot dog eating contest and you can put a plate on, you know, from somebody else's empty plate. You play a series, and you know, I don't care if you win, if you buy it like the Marlins did when they bought the World Series, when they, you know,
waiting for that one.
I'm just saying, if you win, you win. And, you know, the Lakers, they're a winning franchise, or at least they have been in the past. Now the Celtics are the most winningest franchise of championships. But I don't think you can go really out and discredit if they won a championship. But maybe I'm not seeing something that everybody else is seeing. So maybe somebody else in the panel can enlighten me.
I don't know. Right now, we got a busy chat room, so why don't you go out there and put them all up there? We'll just comment on that. I love a busy chat room. Start all the way at the top, Candy, because there's a lot of them. And our priority here on the show is get to everybody. Motor City Smacker. Ben is a Grizzly Guzzler, a Gizzly a hot dog. Okay, it counts. All right, we're talking about the championship. It does not count, says Fleming and Flumbo. All right, keep going. And then they played the same rules and they got it done. And I'm anti-Lakers. That says a lot, Walter. It does not count, and that's final. I'll tell you one thing about Puffin Penguin. You know, this guy here, when he's final on something, he's final. Got to give the man his due. So good for Quang, and those are the quotes there. And Fleming and Flame and Flingo says final. All right. Well, you know what, JB? You got a lot of chat, and you have an opinion. Do you think it counts?
It really is a fraudulent championship. You know, it counts because they played against everyone else that was in the bubble with them, but it's not a real championship. They didn't have to go through the regular playoffs. They didn't have travel.
Right.
You know, they were playing against guys that weren't as motivated, you know, and just, I don't think they were as motivated. It was a fraudulent season. It was something to keep us entertained when we were all locked in during COVID. You know, the NBA did an amazing job at getting something done so that everyone would be safe. Is it a real championship? No. Okay. You know, yeah. And George Karl, way to go. Way to say what everyone thinks.
Yeah, he reminded me of Charles Barkley, and we'll do a show on Charles eventually. But you know, when I went to an NSMA event a couple of years ago, I walked up to Charles and saying everything that we all wanted to say, no problem. But we'll get into him later. All right, George, what's your take on this championship?
Well, yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying, JB, but they did the best they could under the circumstances. Several of the leagues obviously had to make an adjustment for COVID-19 and the pandemic. And as you mentioned, there was that strict Orlando, Florida bubble campus to finish out the season. I don't know. George, he was a coach of the year, I think, way back in the day, all-star game coach, I think 3 or 4 times. But, he is a good basketball. I respect George Karl. I do respect him, but I think he's a little off kilter with this one. I don't know why he's trying to bring it up and aggravate the Lakers even more. But I do know this, is that the Lakers, just like the New York Yankees, have failed to live up to their hype for many, many years. And you could throw the Dodgers in there too, because the Dodgers, didn't they win in the COVID year as well?
Yeah, they did, actually.
That's what I thought, Scott. Yeah. But you know what? I mean, the man's entitled to his opinion. He certainly knows the game, but I don't know. He's just trying to steer stuff up there, I guess, during the slower part, the off season for the NBA.
Okay, back to the chat room. Okay, Walter Mitchell, that's not the Lakers' fault. Well, you're probably right. It really isn't his fault, but nevertheless, they're the beneficiaries of the title. Of course, Boston surpassed them again. What the heck? Your picture. All right. Hi, Kim J is a regular Joe, just so you know. Whereas Eric, he'll be on Monday night for baseball. So Eric's unbelievable. You talk about a guy that I've really developed real well. He does a remarkable job there. Okay, Joshua Dora back in the house. What's going on? You are, buddy. Where's your buddy Eric Katz be on Monday night? The whole gang is here. I love this chat room, guys. This is unbelievable, guys and gal. This is a life of the party on a Wednesday night here on the ESC. With that said, Candy, we're going to take station identification, aren't we? And as far as I'm concerned, you know what? I'm not crazy for the championship either, and I do respect George Karl a lot. So it would be pretty hard to go out there and debate against a guy who ranks amongst one of the all-time winningest coaches in NBA history. With that said, it's a station break by Candy Eblis. Go ahead, Candy.
I mean, if you want to put an asterisk by it, like you can put by other things, you can. But in all fairness, they played a season, whether it was a full season or not. They had to do what they needed to during the COVID. They were supposed to end in June. They didn't. They suspended because of COVID. They went and played in July. At the end of the day, they still had to win. So whether you like it or not, That's the way it is, unfortunately. So let's go to our station identification.
Well, actually, now that you went there, why don't we hit a few more comments? Otherwise, we're going to get behind. I love the group that we have in here, so we'll give them their due. Okay, so let's go ahead. Eric needs to come tune into your other shows to properly co-contribute to the channel. Every once in a while he does, but I see your point, Josh. I'm not going to argue that point by any means. In case, go ahead, Candy, you can read them. My voice is being
in that case, where do they make the case for special circumstances? You can find fault in every sport if you want to find illegitimate reasons for certain championships. MS. Eric is ripe as a potato to harvest. Yes, Mini Scott, aka Eric Cat, should participate in the chat room. Eric is a mouse. Eric also does other things. Wednesday nights are typically Sports Exchange, and us four are the typical one. Yes, we welcome anybody in the chat room, but some of our, like Eric and some other of our participants, have other shows and have different things that they might be working on as well. So we welcome everybody in the chat room, but please keep your comments about other participants to how should I put it? Keep them PG and respectful. Yeah,
right. And Eric also works with Belly Up Sports, so he covers a lot of sports. So being a writer, you know the hours as a writer.
He could be at a game right now. We don't know. Yeah. So,
hey Josh, you say I love the drama. After being in this business as long as I do, it becomes a part of what you do, anyways. Nothing phases me anymore. All right, Kim
so
J.
If you think Scott loves drama, I think you need to go read this book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders, where Scott wrote all kinds of stories about all kinds of things, including maybe some drama. You better read it to find out. He wrote it about his 40 plus years in the business. You can find it available on Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, Google, or Apple Books. It is published by the South Florida Tribune Publishing Company. You can go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where you can see the writings of Scott, George, JB's even written on there. You can find my pictures. You can find transcripts from Dolphins, Jaguars, Lions, local colleges here down in South Florida. You can also buy merchandise on our store. The link is on the front page of the South Florida Tribune, where you can buy, it's hot. The heat is here. Buy a tank top, a South Florida Tribune tank top. Buy an umbrella if it's going to be raining. Or if you want the comfy coziness of a sweatshirt, go to our store, buy any of the merchandise. Please also go to sidelinesportsnet.com. That is JB's website. Yes, I did work on it a little, but go there too, see what they have going on. Again, that was sidelinesportsnet.com, and ours is southfloridatribune.com. If you have ideas you can always email us, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. You can. Twitter is @Tribune South. If you want to sponsor a show or advertise, call Scott 954-304-4941. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can get our podcast wherever you get podcasts. iHeartRadio, Google, Apple. Monday nights we're talking baseball. Tuesday nights we're talking football. Wednesdays and Thursday nights, you never know what sport or non-sport we might be talking about. Preceding this show tonight on nofilter.net, Scott does a one-on-one interview show on nofilter.net. Again, it is free to join. You do have to get a ticket, but it costs you $0 to do so. Go check out who he interviewed tonight. Back to you, Scott.
All right. Well, no, actually, back to Joshua Dorr. I love these comments, man. I just wish you could hopefully come on the show and battle it out in person. But all right, Eric will be belly up when I knock him out in the ring. Woo! Big challenge, Eric. If you're listening, and all Eric will tell you, Mr. Eric will tell you Joshua Dorr, okay, he'd like to go ahead and see you in here so you can tell it to his face instead of being a strong man in the chat room. But that's okay. Nothing like a little bit of a rivalry. At least everybody knows 44. Well, then again, that's Joshua making me look like a math question, 44 to the fourth power. And that's all I know about math. All right. Let's talk about the Bronx Bombers, shall we? The New York Yankees have lost 16 of the last 21 games. The only exciting thing that's happened to them recently is a guy by the name of Ben Rice. Remember we talked about this on Monday? Actually, he's the first Yankee rookie to ever hit 3 home runs in a game in franchise history. So, you know what, Mr. New Yorker, JB, what is going on in the Bronx?
So we spoke about this 2 weeks ago at Sideline Sports. The Yankees are frauds. I'm the Yankee fan. I'm the one that can tell you this team looks great on paper, but they, their best pitcher, Garrett Cole, he's not a guy I want to lead my team. He just got back from being injured. He's not a leader, Aaron Judge, he can't do it all himself. Juan Soto, they can pay for everybody. We used to do that under this owner called George Steinbrenner. He used to bring in the best talent all around, and they never won. The best record in the 80s, they won nothing. Then, George Steinbrenner did stupid things. He got suspended. They hired somebody by the name of Gene Michael, and they learned how to build a farm system. Right. And they all of a sudden started winning. They went on the great run. It was like, the early Yankees in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. But now we're back to the old ways of just trying to buy things, and that doesn't work. It never did. That's why the Orioles, the Tigers, and some of these other teams are starting to build and become better because they're building through their farm system. That's how you get better. You can get a guy or two, but you can't build your team from free agency and the best players out there. That doesn't make a team.
Yeah, and by the way, as if it really matters, Joe Girardi took a job in the broadcast booth, and Don Mattingly. You never know if you'll hear those names later on. George, go ahead, take over from there.
Well, yeah, I know we had the discussion too a year ago, and we were talking about Boone should be replaced as manager. I know several people that have been on the 108 Stitches show have mentioned that before too. One of the big things that hurt them, one of their best players, I always liked him, he's from Michigan, DJ LeMahieu. He's only played 33 out of 91 games for the Yankees this year, so that hurt. But everybody has injuries, so you can't use that excuse. You're right, JB. I mean, Aaron Judge hitting 308, Soto's hitting 291. Then you drop all the way down to 273 for Birdie and Ben Rice at 267, a rookie. And, they're just, you use the word frauds. I mean, yeah, it is a fraudulent, like you said, on paper only, they're looking like great team or, a lot of wins and being a contender for the American League pennant. But deep down, no, there's the pitching isn't as good as it should be. And obviously the hitting has been far from consistent. It's just a situation now where it seems like this is how the Yankees are year after year after year. On paper, they might look like something good, but then when it comes down to the postseason, they always seem to fade out and fade out fast.
Yeah, I hate to say this. I was talking to my good friend Deb, and I actually predicted the Yankees and the Phillies would make it to the World Series.
Oh, wow.
Well, I don't even think there's going to be an issue with the Phillies, but boy, I look like I got mud on myself for making that. And as far as DJ LeMahieu, I had a chance to interview him when he was with the Colorado Rockies, and I always wish he had gone.
Yeah,
I would wish he had gone to Detroit. Never worked out, but I thought when he got to New York, if he would have performed a bit better, although he's been decimated by injuries, people can know what a good player that he really was. So, but what did I have for dinner? Puffin Penguin. I really haven't been feeling very good all day, so I had one piece of pizza. Eric, Joshua Dore, I'm going to say this one time, buddy, and I try to be respectful. Okay. Eric Katz is a fraud, and that is final. I feel that's the most disrespectful comment you can make. And Joshua Dore, I'm going to prove a point that behind that Joshua Dore comes a Joshua Burstein. So for a lot of you want to send him a friend request, his name is Burstein. Okay, because I feel that what you just said is not very professional, and I don't like a ball bust when it comes to insulting one of my most talented players. I know you don't think much of it, Joshua Dore, but I think that if you're on the camera or not on the camera, I don't think, as my mother always taught me, treat one as you want to be treated. And I think you're a bit way out of line. Puffin Penguin, one piece of pizza is all I had. I wasn't feeling well. Okay. The problem is that my market feels it's their birthplace to get all top tier free agents. Yeah, that's true. So ball bust or not, Josh, for all of you want to get up there and nail him, his name is Joshua Burstein on Facebook, and then you can go. He doesn't have to hide behind a door. Okay, Candy. With that said, go ahead. What's your thoughts about the Yankees?
So the Yankees total payroll is over 307 million. Of that, on the injured list is 64 million of it. Every team has players on the injured list. What I think it's a combination of, let's face it, New York is in a big market. They're expected, because they have big market, they have big money, that they should be able to produce. When it comes to on the field, it's not always what your salary is that you've gotten paid. That means that you at some point played really well. But that doesn't mean that together you all are playing well together as a team. I can say that for most of you, maybe some of you know or don't know, that I do sports photography. So I am actually in the photo well right next to the dugout of a lot of these MLB teams. And it amazes me. You can tell when a team isn't doing well, and you can tell when a team is having fun and are playing loose. And when they're having fun and playing loose, most of the time their record will show that. And specifically in certain games, if people are in the dugouts cheering other players, if they're, and I've seen it because I saw it. We saw the Miami Marlins, who are having a horrible season, and I will give you that. We were there on July 4th when they lost to the Boston Red Sox, but we were there also on Sunday when they beat the Chicago White Sox in the 9th inning after Jake Berger has had an unbelievably bad streak, but yet the manager still believed in him, put him batting in the 9th inning, and he hits a 3-run home run to walk off and win the game. But I can tell you there was a difference in that clubhouse, in that dugout on Sunday than there was on July 4th. So I think part of it has to do with the attitudes that each individual team member brings to the game on each individual day. And I think if someone's in a bad slump, and let's face it, almost all the players go into bad slumps from time and time because it's a long season. But I think other players can bring you up. And I think and the coaches can too, don't get me wrong. But I think that's where I see some of the lack of the Yankees is that you don't see that. You don't see a lot of that camaraderie. Whereas I do see that on some of the other teams. Let's face it, for years, the Brewers did not do well. But one thing they said and this was under council at first started, that the team really gelled together and looked like they were really having fun. And they had success. Now, did they win it all? No. But the Brewers' payroll is nothing close to the Yankees' payroll. That's what I'm going to say.
Okay, well, tell you what, we're going back to the chat room. And Walter Mitchell's comments at Joshua, let's put it up. I think everybody in the world should see it. At Joshua, really going in on someone who's not on the show cast. Wow. Good point. All right, Joshua Dorr. And I hate doing this stuff, but I have to anyways. Dear Scott, I am sorry for taking it too far. Amen. Okay, well, prove that to me when you don't do it again. All right, now Puffin Penguin. I like this one, though. Dear Josh, I think you took it a little too far there. Your punishment is to eat a bag of broccoli live on the show next week. That's not bad, actually, Puffin Penguin. I think that's fair punishment. I don't know. What do I think? I think you just go out there and do it in front of all of us. We can laugh at you, but all right. All right, so everybody get a...
just to respond to Candy's comments, though, it's different playing for the Yankees. There's a different expectation. It's not like, playing for, I don't know,
You
Let's
can say
say
Tigers.
the kid,
I get
no,
it.
the Kansas City Royals.
Oh.
There's no expectations when you play for Kansas City. If you guys happen to do well that year, you happen to do well. When you're on the Yankees, the goal every day, every breath is to win the World Series. Everything else is unacceptable.
Mhm.
You know, I had the luck to be at the Subway Series against the Mets. I was at 3 of the, I think it was 5 games, if I remember correctly, that they wanted it. And, you know, they were at Shea, and the guy who got us tickets actually got it from the Mets. He knew people in the front office. So I had to try and be somewhat controlled and not be too excited. And my father's a huge Mets fan. So I actually felt bad that we were going to beat them. But, you know, that there was no winning for us in that World Series. If we won the World Series, we beat the Mets. Big deal. If we lost to the Mets and we lost the World Series. It's every year. It's, you know, it's the same thing with the Celtics. Once there's a basketball, you're expected to win the championship. Nothing else is acceptable. Any type of losing, you know, and they can't go 162-0, but it's expected to go 162-0. There's no excuse for losing. So it's hard to have fun in that type of circumstance. And that's why not all players could perform and can live up to the hype when they get into the New York market, the LA market, where there's such scrutiny.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Joe, here's the thing. You're in the #1 media market. You have 9 million different writers and broadcasters, radio people all over. You're under the scrutiny big time. You know, Kim J. I think Scott is happier when Candy's on the show. Yeah, I definitely feel good. #1, she happens to be talented in a lot of different ways. And, you know, she's one of the best female commentators out there because she's one of those individuals that knows a lot about sports. She really does. That's why she has a couple of shows as well. So, yeah, Kim J., you definitely are right. I feel pretty good when she is on the show for sure. Puffin Penguin, I think the White Sox will win the World Series this year. Well, you know, I guess you're in the cannabis business right there, Puffin Penguin, or you're puffing something. I don't know, but okay, you know, but I'll leave it at that.
Now that's a long shot.
Yeah. All right. Well, I feel a responsibility to answer these
That's
questions.
a no shot. Come on.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm trying to be respectful to the customers. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's exactly what I'm doing. Okay. I've eaten a lot of things. I've eaten crow, and I've eaten my words, but whatever. Kim deserves her opportunity to get on there. Puffin Penguin, as long as it's kosher, we're good. Kim, are you in the military or do you have your own military? I don't know. Kim, bring a few down here to put Joshua Dorr in his place and we'll be fine there. All right. Well, another organization that's under fire, and I mean really literally under fire, is the fact that U.S. Soccer is dismissing Craig Berhalter in the wake of the Americans finishing 11th place at the Copa America, according to a Wednesday afternoon report from Doug McIntyre of Fox Sports. Let's put it this way, okay? The U.S. has done well in a lot of sports, okay? But soccer is their Achilles heel. So with that said, Candy, what do you think? And Puffin Penguin, you guys are a bunch of pushy bullies. I think I can win what I want. All right, whatever. Dreaming, but don't expect me to go out there and sing. Go ahead, Candy.
Puffin Penguin, you can definitely have your own opinion. You can definitely express who you think is going to win the World Series. I just think everybody on this panel does not agree with you on that opinion. That's all we're saying. But yes, you have definitely a right to think what you want to think. And if you want to think the White Sox are going to win the World Series, keep thinking that. I would bet you, and I don't know what I would bet you, but I'd love to bet you if they would win, you send me a White Sox hat and I'll wear it on the show. That's if they win the World Series.
In fact, I'll go a step further. Okay, Puffin Penguin, you want your own podcast? I'll give it to you if you got the guts to come on. If you do, I mean, after all, we'd love to be able to have you on. I get the feeling you have a lot of potential. What do you think, JB? You think he has the potential to go on sideline sports, or do you set the standards that much higher over what you're seeing in the chat room with this guy?
Listen, everyone's entitled to their opinion. I think, he just wants some airtime, and that's not the way to get airtime at sideline sports.
Okay, there you go. And they got thousands and thousands of followers. So, Puffin Penguin, you didn't impress Mr. Ellis. And I'm willing to give you your own show if you want to come on here. And we'll show you how easy it isn't, especially when you have to promote it. And I know that you have better things to do with your time. All right, Walter Mitchell, White Sox will win the World Series on Xbox and PlayStation. That's good. I like that one. All right, so that was really good. All right, Puffin Penguin. All right. Yeah, see, one thing about these guys, they look like boxers, okay? But they're like the rope-a-dopes, only forget the rope. They're just dopes when they make these comments. So there you go. Muhammad Ali, love you, man. And thanks for all the great memory. And Joshua Dore, it's good to have the roasting business go around. While Puffin Penguin got roasted, you got it. Let's go out there and bring it out there. All right, so Flame and Flingo, okay. Question for JB, does Scott bully you?
No.
No, we work well together. The thing is, we think so much alike, it's ridiculous. Him and I are like a Xerox copy machine. You copy me, I copy you, and all of a sudden we know what we're doing. But you know what? I like that question, though, Flaming. I don't like to bully anybody around, but when you have characters like Puffin Penguin and Joshua Dore / Bernstein, again, find him on Facebook, and then you can roast them all you want, okay? And if Puffin Penguin wants to get out of control, you can also go ahead and find Blake Lozinski on there as well, in case you want to take a crack at him. Go ahead and do it. I mean, we like to get more airtime outside of the chat room. All right, on to the U.S. Candy, do you have a chance to talk about U.S. soccer yet, or did I get sidetracked?
No, nobody did.
Sidetracked. We haven't talked about soccer at all.
All right, well, question for George. Can you give us your best roast of Puffin? Go ahead, George.
How about dog check? Give me a dog check.
There you go. Oh, he loves that. Okay.
I'm surprised that Joshua hasn't asked for that yet.
Yeah, don't worry. Give him time. He's just trying to comprehend all the roasting he's getting because the Motor City Madmouth is hammering him again. So, question for Candy: would you visit Korea to cover some sports?
You talking South or North Korea?
I was gonna say that's a big difference.
Big difference.
I would cover the KBO, the Korean Baseball Organization. I cover baseball all over the world, and the KBO actually came in handy when MLB was shut down. So, if you want me to answer that question on my behalf, okay, I would say I'd go to Korea all day long. I'm supposed to get some international travel the next few years as things wind down. So I'd go there. Candy, would you go? Of course, you're my photographer. I'd probably drag you there with me anyway. We got passports that are valid, so send Eric to Korea. You know what? You give him an opportunity to write baseball, he'd go. Don't kid yourself, Kim J. All right, now we'll get onto this topic, even though we're flabbergasted with all the incredible comments we're getting in the chat, and I mean really incredible. All right, Candy, U.S. Soccer. How desperate is that when you get rid of the coach after finishing 11th, since they've never won a World Cup anyways?
This is the second time he's coached the team. Let's face it, the U.S. does not put the same emphasis on soccer as it's not our first sport. And in many other countries, it is their first sport. It is their highlight sport. So they get the best of the best. And even players that come play for MLS, like, let's face it, Lionel Messi is playing for Inter Miami. He's not playing for the U.S. in the Cup. He's going back and playing for his country, where most of them do. So is it surprising that we're going through coaches and they're not getting the results that we would like? We're not a powerhouse in soccer, and unless we start emphasizing it more, paying more, doing more for the sport, we won't be, because we don't put it on the pedestal that a lot of these other countries do. I mean, some countries, it's the only sport that they play, and no. So am I sad to see him go? I'm not a big soccer fan, I'll admit. I watch zero on TV of it, pretty much. I do go to Inter Miami games once in a while to use my photography skills and stuff like that. But am I surprised? No, because they haven't been doing as well. But the competition is tough.
Yes. All right, back to Walter Mitchell. White Sox 40 games under 500. So, yeah, I think they have a bit of a hole there to get out. Flamin' Flamingo, he would go and bring Candy with them. Great minds think alike there, Flamin'. And the White Sox want to win unless they trade for Rick Vaughn and Willie Mays.
The wild thing, Rick Vaughn from Major League.
Yeah, there you go. Willie Mays, and have Harry Doyle doing radio. They ain't coming back from that deficit. Hey, listen, I got news for you. I wouldn't mind doing some play-by-play. I was telling my buddy Chip Tarkenton, who, by the way, was on the Motor City Man Mouse show. I yearned for that opportunity to do play-by-play in public speaking. So you never know. But all right, Joe, you've had a chance to digest this U.S. soccer thing. Thanks, Puff and Penguin, for the kind words. Good show tonight. Got a few topics. We might even break a hockey topic in. I don't know if you're young enough, old enough to understand it, but we got one anyways. So go ahead, Joe, about soccer.
So, I mean, U.S. soccer is going to eventually get better. The U.S. Soccer Federation, based in Chicago, I've attended some of their events. They care about the health of their players. They had a whole concussion seminar that I went to last summer. They work very hard with MLS to make the game better throughout the country. They're slowly trying to build it up. More children now play soccer in the U.S. probably than ever before. It's getting there. We're not there yet. Basketball is better. Football is better. Baseball and hockey are falling. So, soccer has a chance to go into that third spot at some point. And if it just continues to progress, it will. Soccer is a tough sport, though. You need to have a grass field or a big enough space that you could play in, and right now, my generation who has children, we don't know enough about soccer. I mean, we talk about it on Sideline Sports. I'm the only one besides Raphael that knows anything about soccer, and I don't even know that much about it, but I enjoy it. So everybody else thinks it's a horrible game. So it's going to take, a generation or two more before it actually gets where it needs to be. But it's tough to lose your job. It's tough when you underperform. And the U.S. has to figure it out because, there are a lot of countries in the world that are better at soccer than us. And we're not getting better quick enough.
Well, let me tell you, many years ago, when I first started covering the sport back in South Florida back in the early 80s, I was working with my friend Chip Damius, unquestionably the best PR guy I've ever worked with in my lifetime anyways. So he decided to put on an event for all of us. By the way, Kim J, great show on your toilet, Puff. And there you go. Boy, your comments are getting better and better. Good stuff. Okay, but anyways, let me go back to the story. So Chip goes out there, and they have a practice field behind Lockhart Stadium. So you had the Fort Lauderdale staff administration against the media. Let me tell you something. You better be conditioned to play this sport, because if you're not, you're going to be in trouble. I had a takedown that ended up costing me a sprained ankle, and I had to be at the Dolphins training camp later that day with Don Shula. And I'll tell you what, I sprained my ankle when I got taken down, went to the hospital, and bounced back to go see Coach Shula. And we had a great story. He said, "You want me to cut you or put you on injured reserve?" Because at that point, he started to like me because I got better at my job. Again, when you're young and you're talking to Don Shula, he's an easy guy to intimidate you. But when he gets to know you, he's the greatest person on the planet. But he liked me, But the reality is, if you're not conditioned to play that sport, no, you don't have a prayer. You don't. And one thing I've learned about soccer players is, why they have so much training. You better be extremely conditioned to play this sport. You really, really do. Otherwise, you're not going to survive it. All right, Walter Mitchell, soccer, not at all. Candy, you're right. Financially, it's making a dent. Plus, it's boring to watch. Well, there isn't as much scoring, but back in the day when they had the indoor soccer league, they were scoring a lot. Candy is pretty much always right. Kim J, I would never debate that. And if I did debate it, I'd be in trouble. So I'm not that stupid anyway. So with that said, it's your turn.
Well,
that was good, Kim.
Yeah, Coach Berhalter was fired. And the reason why is because there was a poor performance at Copa America. We were one of the host countries in the group, but we lost to both Uruguay and Panama. So it says that this was the first time that the U.S. men's team was eliminated from a group stage of a World Cup, Copa America, or Gold Cup that it hosted. So this is just egg on our face. And I agree with everything you guys have said. I know it's not the top sport in the United States, but there are a ton of soccer fans in America and around the world. Obviously, it's the number one sport in the world. So now you got the World Cup, okay, in 2026. So what we were trying to do with the U.S. team was trying to build up some momentum. we're hosting, along with Canada and Mexico, in a unique arrangement in the 2026 World Cup. So this fact that we got bounced out of Copa America early, obviously, Berhalter, the coach, is going to take the blame because they want to see progress. The powers that be at the U.S. Men's national team, they want to see progress. I mean, the ladies teams have just been fantastic, as we know, over the past 8 or 10 years. But the men have continued to struggle. They have a real difficult time getting into any high visibility wins. And that's because of a lot of the reasons that you guys just talked about. That soccer is popular with the young kids, but there seems to be a disconnect as those kids grow up and get a little bit older. I mean, unless you were able to be so talented, you'd play for your college team and then possibly into the North American soccer league. I mean, then you'd have a chance to say that, yeah, this kid's got a soccer future. But a lot of kids don't do that. There's so many other things: baseball, football, especially, and hockey as well, basketball. So I just want to sum this up by saying, Coach, you let us down. And unfortunately, this is what happens when you let people down. You end up losing your job.
Well, you know what, George? Either you got way better eyesight than I do, or your right eye must have been looking in the chat, because Walter Mitchell said what's weird is the women do very well and have since the World Cup and the 90s, the men couldn't take advantage of the opportunity. More importantly, the men had only 4 goals in the last World Cup. And I'm thinking, if you have the MLS as a proving ground or developmental, for some reason I didn't see where it was, but I don't know. But the women have done them. That's not taking anything away from the women. Let's face the reality. They've had an incredible run for sure. All right, we have one hockey note I want to get to, and it's a not on this day thing, but it involves 2 big name players. We'll see if some know who they are. Maybe some don't, but it's certainly worth mentioning that on this day in 1957, the Boston Bruins received Johnny Busick from the Detroit Red Wings in exchange for Terry Sawchuk. Well, we all know how that all I can say about that is that trade was a win-win for both teams. And of course, Sawchuk, unquestionably one of the greatest goaltenders of all time. I do believe he led the Red Wings for 1 or 2 cups, if I remember right, George.
Yes, yeah, back in the 1950s, yeah, he was. Oh, you're right. And Busey, I mean, they're both Hall of Famers. Come on. Terry died, unfortunately, in that terrible, strange accident, horseplay they called it, during the offseason. Sawchuk, but yeah, he's undoubtedly Detroit's top goaltender of all time. All due respect to Chris Osgood and Mike Vernon and some of the other great ones they've had over the years, but Roger Crozier. But yeah, the Sawchuk was great. What a great and like I said, Busick, a Hall of Famer. Great trade for both.
Well, the reality of the situation is Terry Sawchuk was the greatest goaltenders ever to play the game. Joe, do you know much about those 2 players at all? Busick and Sawchuk at all? Yeah, back in the day, they were unbelievable goaltenders. So he was a great goaltender. Busick was great. And when you play for an original 6 team, it is what it is. Candy, you want to say anything about it? Or we have one topic, but I think it's just going to be a very enlightening one. Anything you want to go ahead? Yeah. Walter Mitchell, names from the past, memories, old wings. You bet. And Walter, when I see some interesting things like this, the one thing we like to do at the Sports Exchange here, we have a little bit more leeway because we're going to talk about every single sport that we can get to. And over the last couple of weeks, we talked about the hot dog eating contest. And after this topic, I got a doozy here lined up. Candy, I know you just started getting into hockey when you were around me. Anything you want to add about Sawchuk and Busick at all?
No, except I was doing a little research and it just said GM Lynn Patrick made one of the most important trades in Bruins history during the summer of 1957. After Terry Sawchuk indicated he was coming out of retirement, he was traded back to the Detroit Red Wings for John Buck and Larry Hillman. That's
good enough. Okay, let's go on to the next topic. Okay, for those of you that would like to go ahead and find a bucket list, I'll give you one now. So we'll call it our non-sports subject. Every once in a while, I'm going to bring a non-sports subject here to kind of loosen things up a little bit, give you a taste of the world. But this is a good one. When I saw it come across, I said, I got to put this on tonight.
Honestly, Scott, before you do it, I'm going to say this almost belongs on tomorrow night's show on Fire Up because it's almost like my town.
Well,
go ahead now.
Well, it became your town when you looked at the notes and you thought I'd add it. But you know what? But you know what? That's your show. You have your own signature. Let me tell you, everybody, Candy Ebling, when you talk about how talented she is, she has her own show called Fire Up. And you know what? She does an unbelievable job hosting that show. If anybody deserves to host a show, that woman does. So with that said, okay, Mackinac Island's Careless Road gets a speed limit, okay? Governor Gretchen Whitmer signed a bill Monday that adds a speed limit to Mackinac Island's M185. Under the new law, electric bicycles and bicycles cannot exceed 15 miles an hour. Visitors can get around by using a horseback, horse-drawn carriages on foot. Okay, foot. So, you know what, JB Ellis? What do you think about this thing? 15 miles an hour, really?
I don't understand. I don't. Maybe I have to go there to see it. Like Cape Cod, I know there's a lot of places you can't even take a car. Before I went there, I was like, what's the point? It was beautiful. Saw it once in my life. I'm good. Never got to go back. Maybe I got to see it to understand, but I don't know. It's Michigan.
Yeah, well, it is. But let me tell you, when I ended up renting a bike a few years ago, I was going 20, 25 miles an hour. I'm way a little bit more than I used to.
You're speeding.
I know I was. I'm not
spend the night in
denying that.
jail. You're gonna spend the night in jail for that. Don't do it.
Well, no, I did it back then before the law. Yeah, if I
do it
said
again.
no, well, no, I you kidding? I don't think my knees will allow me to do it, even if I tried. But you know what?
So
if
Usain Bolt went there, right, and he decided to run a 100-meter dash, he's got to run quicker than 25 miles an hour for his 100 meters, right?
Right.
So would they arrest him or give him a ticket?
I don't know. They didn't say nothing about foot. They're only talking about these other things. But you know what?
Right.
That's why this topic made the show, because of comments like that. All right, so here, let's go back to Walter Mitchell, okay? Laugh out loud. I guess that's what LOL means, right? As a Michigander, that's funny, LOL. I'll be darned. Good stuff, Walter. All right, Mackinac Island is the same way, no cars allowed. Yeah, we know about that. All right. Adam Bloomstein. Hello, everybody. Hello, Adam. All right, with that said, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was going pretty fast to get around that island on a bike, but, you know, I wouldn't mind doing the horse thing. I really don't know if I want to do the horse thing, but I'd rather do the carriage. That way nobody can nail me. There are times I've had to go in Georgia that Candy's had to take over because the people in Georgia like me so much that I prefer that they didn't like me, and I turn it over to Candy. So I'm staying away from those people. But Candy, you know what? 15 miles an hour, you were with me, okay? This will make our travel plans a little different there, knowing I can't haul with a bicycle no more.
You haul on a bicycle? Come on. Let's face it. State Highway M185, for those of you that have never been there, it wraps 8.2 miles around the entire island. It's fairly level with only a few hills. A runner can make it in 45 minutes, but walking can take 1.5 to 3 hours, including stops. What year did they stop allowing cars on Mackinac Island? Scott, do you know?
No, I don't remember. I didn't read that far. I only think about the speed limit of 15 miles an hour. I'm a one-track mind.
On July 6th, 1898, village leaders enacted a ban on motor vehicles after local residents complained the dangerous horseless carriages that had newly arrived on the island were frightening their horses. The vehicle ban has become one of Mackinac Island's most iconic features. It is the only state highway in the U.S. that bans cars. So my only question is, if it bans all motorized vehicles, does that mean a police car and any emergency vehicles can't go on it because it bans motorized vehicles?
Makes one wonder. All right, back to Walter.
Not sure.
Well, you talk about the 1800 something. My great grandfather Morris Crow, I don't think was alive back then. So, you know, that's that. So Walter Mitchell, don't forget USA versus Canada, a basketball friendly 10:30 Eastern Standard Time on FS1. All right, thanks, Walt. Appreciate that. All right, so George, you're the Michigan resident here. I mean, you know, Governor Whitmer.
Well, what was happening is I think one of the things they started getting these e-bikes, these electronic bikes, and what they're finding out was a lot of the men and women that are renting those up on the island are going too fast. So they're a little bit. I know it sounds funny and it sounds goofy and all that, but the problem is that with this craze going on now with the motorized bikes, there's just too much chance for error. There's too many chances for accidents up there. I mean, this is the movie Somewhere in Time with the late Christopher Reeve. I mean, this is what Mackinac is all about. It's just a special, poignant place, especially popular with newlyweds and wedding anniversaries and wedding couples and romance and all that. So it's a very unique place. I mean, no cars. I don't know. I'm sure that they've got provisions for EMS and police, but I don't know what those are. I've been on the island probably about 5 or 6 times in my life, not recently, but it is a wonderful place. No question about it. It's a beautiful island. But this all was started, and that's why Governor Whitmer had to sign this, and the legislature put this bill together, is because they had to catch up, pardon the pun, with the speedsters that were doing these electronic bikes on the island all of a sudden.
Hey, Joe, when you ultimately make your way over on that island, I'll tell you one thing, that fudge is unbelievable. So, when you do get there and you have to walk, mark my word, you'll be walking off that fudge. And if you have a Kilwins in your neck of the wood, they have Mackinac Island fudge. I don't know if they have it in Chicago or whatever, but that stuff is unbelievable.
Oh, yeah, they're famous for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and Walter Mitchell, again, I don't believe there's a functioning medical facility. I don't know.
I don't agree with that. There's got to be something there for medical.
I don't know. I mean, I can't really answer it one way or the other, but if there isn't, then just make sure you take that ferry across to Mackinac City. I know there's something probably over there. That's
yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's unreal. So with that said, I'm going to leave it up to the crew. Do you guys want any parting shots? I don't need any tonight.
No.
What about you, Joe? You got something you want to get off your chest?
No, I got it at the beginning with the hot dog issue.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, we're like Canada. We go far and wide with the topics you never know going to come up with. And, with you mentioning that other stuff, maybe it's probably just as well that I didn't bring up it. But it was kind of neat, though, when you look at Kobayashi and Joey Chestnut doing their own thing. I'll be curious to see what happens come Labor Day when they go head-to-head. You got 2 guys there, they're legends in the eating business, squaring off over Labor Day. God only knows where we're going to be, but there was some intrigue for July 4th. Anyways, go ahead, Candy.
So let me just, go to what George was saying. Mackinac Island Police patrol on foot and bicycle in the summer, and there's a police vehicle available for emergencies. The force includes a chief, corporal, handful of officers, respond to about 100 incidents per year. They also do have a medical department. They do have fire trucks, and they do have an ambulance to transport people to the Mackinac Island Medical Center if necessary.
There you go.
Interesting.
Good research. Thank you, Candy.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Candy's unbelievable when it comes to researching as well as everything else she does. I will say, though, that topic we began with at the top of the hour with George Carl talking about the Lakers, I definitely feel there's a lot of relevance to what he's talking about. Let's face the reality. That bubble, I know they're going to get a ring, and Frank Vogel lost his job, but it's not like haven't gone through a lot of coaches since Phil Jackson left, and I'll bring that up for another show. So with that said, we're going to let everybody go around and.
So wait, one last interesting thing: the Mackinac Island Fire Department is the oldest fire department in Michigan, dating back to the early 1800s.
Wow.
There's a trivia for everybody.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff, Candace. Unbelievable. All right. With that said, George Choicord, let everybody know how they get a hold of you.
Yeah. You can follow me on the South Florida Tribune website and Sideline Sports. I enjoy writing those articles, the Motor City Tribune as well. And at the end of the column, there's a link to a book that I wrote called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. It's still available from Amazon. Scott's in the book, and Ernie Harwell, our dear friends, in the book. And yeah, Candy's got a picture of the book right that way. But it's available for purchase. You can follow me at on LinkedIn at my name, George Eichhorn, or on Twitter, X at SanG Sports 99. And I'll be on the 108 Stitches show. There we go. And also this wonderful show, as well as other programming here on the South Florida Tribune, YouTube, and other channels.
Very good. Yeah. Nothing
Okay.
like, I'll tell you, talk about a show. We're talking about horses tonight. We're talking about electric bicycles. They're like wide world of sports. We go over everything. All right, Joe
That's
Ellis.
right.
All right.
Everybody
So
knows.
JB underscore the program on X, Sideline Sports every Tuesday night, 8:30, followed by all over social media, and then on Wednesday morning at WDJY 99.1 in Atlanta. Tune in, iHeart, and all those good things. Go to sidelinesportsnet.com, which is our website. Everyone here is involved in it. Candy helped build it, did a great job. It looks amazing. George and Scott right on there. I'm sure we have some Candy pictures on there and a whole bunch of other things on there. So make sure you're checking it out. And Confidential, which is usually on an hour before we start here every week.
Well done, Joe. Enjoy having
Thank
you on the Sports Exchange too. You do an unbelievable job.
You do. Great
you really
job.
do.
Thank you.
You bring
Yeah.
in a great perspective. So, all right, Candy, take it home. My voice is just about at its limit, anyways. Not that anybody would believe that, anyways, but it is.
Okay, so Scott is in this box. Inside there is a picture of his book. It's called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. He wrote it, but you know what? This guy wrote the foreword in the book, too. Wow! Imagine that.
She's
Scott
having
talks.
fun.
We all know Scott loves to talk. Scott has all kinds of stories to tell. Go read the book because he tells you some of the stories that he has encountered over his 40 plus years in the business. Go see. He's got some pictures in there. A picture of him and young Muhammad Ali. And Scott's actually young in the picture too. You got to check it out. Barnes and Noble, Apple, Google, Amazon, Kindle. Go get the book. Read it. Tell us your thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts. Write a review. Go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Scott writes, George writes, JB writes, I take pictures. We have a store, a link to our store where you can buy merchandise, whether you need a new umbrella, you need a new sweatshirt, sweatpants, shorts, t-shirt, you name it, go buy it. You can buy South Florida Tribune as well as Motor City Mad Mount merchandise. If you like to listen to podcasts, we're wherever you get your podcast. iHeartRadio, Google, Apple. Monday nights, we talk baseball. Tuesday nights, we talk football. Wednesday and Thursday nights, you just never know what we're going to be talking about. Obviously, we talked about Mackinac Island tonight. You just never know. And typically on Thursday nights, there's a segment because it is my show. And we do a segment called My Town. So we talk about something that's happening in our town, whether it be sports related or not. Tuesday nights, you can also find me if you like to listen to Chicks Talking Sports, Chicks and Salsa, or Three Chicks in a Pod. We talk sports pretty much almost exclusively, but you just never know. Check us out. If you want to advertise or sponsor a show, call Scott 954-304-4941. If you missed any of what I just said, most all of it is scrolling along the bottom. It has been the whole show. You can always rewind, watch it again if you missed anything. Or if you're listening to us, rewind and listen to us again. We want to thank all the people that were in the chat room tonight. We appreciate everybody. We also want to thank, and we want to ask all of you for all of the different participants we have on all of our different shows. We ask you to support them on their shows, on their channels, and on their websites as well, because without them, we wouldn't be here either. So go support them as you support us as well. If you see a red subscribe button, that means you have not subscribed to us. Subscribe to us, get notifications so you know when our shows go on, so you can watch us or listen to us. I think that's at Tribune South is our Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it.
But it is. Okay. No, that's good.
Back to you.
All right, one thing what I want to add, I just want to say prayers to all the people that are affected by Hurricane Beryl out in Houston as well as other parts of the country. So we continue to pray for your safety out there, and I'll let you know that on behalf of our crew here tonight, as well as all the other shows around it, we're praying that everything gets back to normal. And that's what it's all about. You know, life is what it is, and we don't want to see anybody get hurt as well as lose some of the things that they definitely need. So prayers on behalf of the Sports Exchange and all, and everybody across our network as well. So on behalf of Candy Ebling, George Icorn, JB Ellis, and like Candy said, the rest of the chat room, I want to thank you for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange. We'll be back next Wednesday night. Good night, everybody, and take care. Appreciate y'all. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Good night.